After 500 of the toughest laps in NASCAR, Kyle Busch sweeps another weekend in Bristol, and he is the undisputed king of this concrete.
Sweep it again, baby. Sweep it again. Oh, we did. Good job, Eminem, boys. Way to bring it. Way to bring it, guys. You all won the race off pit road.
Welcome, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on speed, fueled by Sunoco, and Bring It is exactly what Kyle Busch did. You know, this young man has now won the last 5 NASCAR races at Bristol. If anybody has this track figured out right now, it is Kyle Busch. No matter what he drives, he seems to end up right here, and that is in Victory Lane. If it's not him winning it, it's his brother winning it, because 10 of the last 19 races here have been won by a gentleman with the last name of Busch. I'm John Roberts alongside of Kyle Petty and Kenny Wallace. And guys, have you ever seen a driver have such a stranglehold on a racetrack?
Darrell Waltrip at one time.
At one time.
He and Junior Johnson and Cale Yarborough. Junior Johnson, let me say Junior Johnson, that team did. But nothing like what Kyle Busch has done. When you see him in a Nationwide or a truck or cup, I don't care. I think if they unloaded shopping carts from Food City here, he's still the guy. He's still the guy.
And you know, I'll go back to the statement this morning. Someone said to me yesterday, just how good is that guy? Look at him sweeping again for the second time in a row. No matter how much you boo him, race fans, he continues to egg you on with his bowel movements. He loves it. But anyway, somebody said, how good is this guy? He's that good, race fans. But what makes him even great is when he gets a good race car like he had today. I mean, the guy is incredible, and it cannot be denied. And I'm starting to see more cheers because the fans are finally saying, I give.
Here's what I like. They boo him at driver introduction,
right,
and then they stand on their feet and they applaud when it's because you have to applaud what he does on the racetrack. I don't care whether you like him or not. At least the fans realize they're seeing something special on the racetrack.
But we also saw something pretty special in 3 of the best in the business. Also guys who had won at this racetrack before, with the number 48 driven by Jimmy Johnson, who needed a good run, actually a win. He's been running well all year. And your pole sitter, Carl Edwards. This was a great shootout between 3 of the best, but Kyle was just too much.
Yeah, Kyle was just too much. But I'm going to tell you something. Carl carried this car kind of halfway on his back these last 20 or 25 laps. He got up on the wheel and did something because he had been competitive, but not to the point to be able to race with these 2 guys. These 2 guys had been a little bit better, I think, than Carl all day long. But he just drove the wheels off of it and at least led a lap and got up where he needed to be. Jimmy just could not do anything with Carl, so he never had a shot at Kyle.
And this is the end of the race. Everybody was on pins and needles. It's like, who's going to win it? You're waiting for Jimmy Johnson to come back and attack, but this is the way they finished. It was a great ending to a race.
Now, the number 99 car driven by Carl Edwards did everything he possibly could to catch him. Let's hear from Carl as he spoke with Bob Dillner after the race.
Carl Edwards remains tough to beat here in the Sprint Cup Series, but you battled with Kyle Busch here a couple of years ago, and a nice race between you 2 guys this time around.
I liked it the last time better. That's a good race. I mean, his car was faster. I was hanging on for everything I had. I could get to him, and I bumped him one time, but Jimmy was, all over my back bumper, and I thought, man, if I hit him hard right here and send him, number 1, we might get a caution. Number 2, I might wreck myself, and I really thought I'd be closer at the end. I thought maybe him and I could separate out there and be able to race, real hard the last few laps, but it wasn't meant to be. And man, second's so frustrating. We came here to win, but really overall our team is doing great. I don't know if we're leading the points right now, but we got to be close. So having fun.
Are you thinking about points while battling with Kyle there to make sure you get the finish that you need to coming out of here?
No, I wasn't. I should have been. I should have been thinking about points. I was just thinking about getting the best finish I could. That's man, that's a fun racetrack right there. Just had a good time, and I'm glad my guys got us out front on pit road. They worked really hard and got the car better, and that's the key right there.
Carl Edwards with the win and 2 second-place finishes so far this year.
And here's a great number for you, Bob. 7 times Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards have finished 1-2 in a race, but 5 times Kyle has finished first.
Yeah.
We're going to have fun now.
This is what's crazy for me. I can't look at this. Carl wins Phoenix and Homestead last year, goes to Daytona and runs second, gets in a wreck at Phoenix, and then runs first and second. He's not finished, when he's finished running in a race, he's not finished worse than second out of the last, 6 Cup races.
Wow.
That's as impressive as what Kyle Busch is doing.
And that's why you will see Carl up in the points,
God.
but nothing
Crazy.
better than winning for Kyle Busch and going out there and leading the most laps, because that is the way you get maximum points, but also make history on one of the toughest racetracks there is, and that is the Bristol Motor Speedway. When we come back, all 500 laps for you.
NASCAR Victory Lane is fueled by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Put the fuel of NASCAR in your car. Brought to you in part by Roundup Extended Control Weed and Grass Killer plus Weed Preventer. And by Hamburger Helper. 1 pound, 1 pan, 1 tasty meal.
Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco, coming to you from Victory Lane at the Bristol Motor Speedway. After 500 laps, it is Kyle Busch once again celebrating a victory, and that makes 5 NASCAR races in a row that he has won at this track. An absolutely unbelievable feat. Now, this race was named the Jeff Byrd 500 in honor of the late, great vice president and general manager of this racetrack who meant so much to the community. So it was Kyle Busch who had the honor of winning the one and only Jeff Byrd 500. Let's take you back to the beginning, to the green flag today. And here we go races. One of the hottest drivers on the circuit right now, Carl Edwards, led us to the green flag and jumped out there, led a couple laps right away. But there was somebody looming in the background. It was the number 27 car driven by Paul Menard.
Well, everybody the last 2 years is saying, is Paul Menard for real? Race fans, he's for real. I mean,
35 laps led for Paul Menard at the beginning of this race, and yes, Kenny, you are right. He is for real.
and Paul Menard finishes 5th in today's race. Race fans, face it, I don't care if this kid's father has a lot of money. He is driving the race car. Good job, Paul Menard.
Lap number 28, it was caution flag number 1 as Jeff Burton slowed, collecting Brad Keselowski, David Rudiman, Denny Hamlin, McMurray, Allmendinger, and Bill Elliott was able to get the free pass on that one, but a couple of wrecked up race cars right there, and really I'd have to say this time that Denny Hamlin, Kyle, got the worst of it.
Yeah, he did. He's the one that suffered the worst long term when you look at the rest of the day. Some of these guys came back and had decent runs and salvaged something out of it, but that's just Bristol. That's a chain reaction. You see the 31 here checking up the 21. They all get into each other, and it's like stopping at a local traffic stop. When the first car decides he's not going to go through the yellow light, everybody piles in behind him.
Here's a test for a driver that people might not say is for real. Well, guess what? He's for real, because he's up here doing battle with the 5-time champion Jimmy Johnson, and Paul Menard is holding his own.
Well, Paul Menard running this good is not what is impressive. What is impressive is Paul Menard finished 5th today. That solidly solidifies that he is a top 10 driver early in the NASCAR season.
So a great run for Paul Menard. Once again, led 35 laps, battling up there with the likes of Jimmy Johnson. Now, NASCAR had made an audible earlier in the week with Goodyear. They put new right side tires on the car, shipped them down from Charlotte, and therefore they had a competition caution. This one came out at lap number 50. It was the second caution of the day, and perhaps the most important thing to come out of this was the fact that Denny Hamlin was able for then to get back on the lead lap.
There were a lot of changes. You've seen Kevin Harvick. He was running around 20th to 30th. Kevin Harvick, this was good for him. He shot to the front. Kyle, a lot of changes.
Yeah, and what we saw during this round of pit stops were some guys, you see right there, Tony Stewart taking 2 tires. We saw some guys early in the race. The 39 car took 2 tires. The 18 car took 4 at this time, and you see him take the lead back. But we saw some strategy early to gain track position, just as you said with Kevin Harvick. This is for the lead at this point in time in the race.
And another very pleasant surprise so far this year, Martin Truex Jr. in the number 56. He's up in the points, and right here he's out to get a couple of laps led.
Now, I will say I really thought Martin Truex was going to contend for the win. At this time, he was so fast, he was mowing him down for some 100 laps. But Martin Truex finishes 17th. I don't know what happened.
Lap number 128, it was caution flag number 3 that came out as a 7 of Robbie Gordon. Got a little tire issue and rubs up against the wall. And, guys, that's just one of those things. Lost a right front.
Yeah, I think they said that Robbie's problem was that he blew out a bead. If we remember, if you go back to this point in the race, Robbie was really getting people a lot of pressure from the leaders to put him a lap down. So he was really trying to hold those guys off.
Popped the right front tire. Don't know why we popped the right front tire. Nobody else did. we stayed out that run, so the 38 myself, or 34 myself probably had the most laps on our tires. We were running around 20th. Was going to be a pretty decent run for us.
Had a decent run going, but another bad break for Robbie Gordon. As Kenny mentioned just a moment ago, here comes Kevin Harvick doing battle up there. He spent a lot of time up front as well.
And what was impressive about Harvick is he did qualify well, and you thought, well, how's he going to run? Kevin Harvick was very displeased with his car in the last practice session, but au contraire, here he comes, and Kevin Harvick finishes 6th on the day. But right now, it looked to me like he was going to win this race because he come from the back to the front.
Did the wedge seem to help it at all, or did it hurt it? It didn't help it. You know, when I go to hit the gas, it just rotates so hard that I can't just put the gas down like I need to. Tires look good. See, they feel like bricks.
So Kevin Harvick ended up with a 6th place finish after spending a lot of time up front. But here we get another look at one of the more pleasant surprises so far this year. Once again, 27 of Paul Menard.
And you saw right there the 47 car of Bobby Labonte got into the 27. And as they go down in the corner, I'm not sure there was any contact there. Bobby got in and the car got a little bit loose. The 27 may have got into him and caused that spin. But both of those cars, as you see, go down in the corner here, he kind of goes up and just spins it around and keeps going.
Tough break for Tony as he runs into his own car.
Sorry about that. I mean, I was watching Bobby, and I couldn't see through to Ryan. I thought they'd just go on. I mean, I didn't gas it. I just didn't slow down as much as they did. And then when Bob said something, I was already mowed him over.
So things happen in a hurry here at Bristol, and you can see just how tough it is. Tony Stewart drives through that plume of smoke, and on the other end was Ryan Newman. Nothing he could do about it, but the fortunate thing, because of this COT car and how tough it is, they're pretty bulletproof. If you hit in the front, especially here at Bristol, you're going to be okay.
Well, you know one thing that was interesting, Kyle, John, at this point of the race, we didn't know who was going to win this race. We had Martin Truex. We had Harvick. We had, Johnson. It looked like here come Bobby Labonte. We didn't know.
No, and you had Paul Menard. You had the sleeper up in there at this point in time. But back to the 14 thing, let me just say, these are 16-second laps. 4 seconds on the straightaway, 4 seconds in each corner. When something happens in front of you, you don't have much time. And you heard Tony say, I just didn't slow down. They are pretty bulletproof, but you don't want to be running into each other that hard, especially when you got to pay the bills like Tony does on that 39.
Exactly. At least he knows since he's the boss, he can't get fired for hitting a team car because he'd have to do it to himself. But anyway, great run for Tony today and Ryan as well, as that team is off to a fantastic start. But nothing quite like what Kyle Busch has done here this weekend at Bristol. Back with more highlights in a moment. So when we left you at the halfway point of the Jeff Byrd 500 here at Bristol, it was pretty much anybody's race. Didn't know who was going to end up with us here on Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. But let's go back to the highlights just after halfway and see another battle for the lead. This time it was between two of the class of the field today, the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, the 18 of Kyle Busch.
Yep, Kyle Busch, he's another guy making his presence. Is he going to win? Well, we don't know. He's going to take the lead, but then he fades back to second or third. And here we go, Kyle. On the bottom was the hardest place to pass.
And Kyle Busch is one of the few guys we saw be able to make that move on competitive cars. Everybody could pass slower cars underneath, but on competitive cars, guys that were your equal or in that range, Kyle Busch could do it.
One thing about racing here at Bristol is the cars that are trying to not go a lap down sometimes are pretty darn good cars, like the 33 of Clint Boyer, as he's doing everything he can to not allow Kyle Busch to put him a lap down. And Kyle gets a little bit frustrated after a while of battling the number 33, as he wanted him to get out of the way because he said, look, man, I'm the leader, so I want that spot on the track.
The 33 a lap down. Oh.
Yeah, you heard him ask if the 33 was a lap down. Sometimes when a guy races you that hard, you don't know where they're at. If they're a lap down, you expect them to get out of the way. When they're still trying to stay on the lead lap like Clint Boyer was, I saw some of the hardest racing today were guys that were running 16th, 17th, and 18th trying to stay on the lead lap.
And Kyle also got a little bit frustrated with Marcos Ambrose as well, is because what you can do here, it's sort of like since it's March Madness time, you can use that other car like a pick in basketball, but that's what Kyle was trying to do.
If I go to the top, he blocks the top. If I go to the bottom, he squeezes me low. 10-4, you're right.
So here's the situation. I'm the leader of the race. give me some room. But Marcos Ambrose says, I don't want to go down a lap because that'll put me out of the race. So you got to understand both parties. It's called racing. You can't move over.
And Kyle's not whining, but I'm going to say something. That, this is Bristol. You know how hard it is to make up a lap at Bristol, and you've got to fight your butt off, lap in and lap out. These guys didn't just all of a sudden see the leaders and get up on the wheel and say, I'm going to keep that guy behind me. Marcos and those guys in the 33 drove as hard as they could all day long.
Tennessee's own Trevor Bayne gets a little bumping and banging here from Jimmy Johnson as he was trying to get by him. Here's the in-car look as Jimmy Johnson comes up and gives a little bit of the business, if you will.
Man, I'll tell you what. Trevor Bayne is a phenomenal story, but ever since he won that Daytona 500, it's been rough.
And, we heard Kyle at the top of this show thank his guys in the pits, saying we won this race in the pits, and he was very happy for that, and he was also happy to come out in first place.
We get the 99 or did you beat us? I don't know. They're going to have to look. I'd say that's a camera shot right there.
And here is the camera shot. Look, who made it to the line first? Number 18. Things were going his way.
3 M&Ms for everybody. Got off a pit road. And you know what? He said this helped him win the race, and I believe it because track position was so important.
Let's take a look at the 29 car of Kevin Harvick as we see him trying to get by Casey Kane. Gets a little bump from Mark Martin, and that was pretty much devastating to him at that time because he was running in the top 5.
Yeah, it was. It looked like the 4 come off the corner and got slowed a little, and when the 29 had to check up, then Mark was just there and got into him. Kevin did a great job of saving it to that point, but inevitably when you were on the flat, he was going to spin this thing around, and it almost ruined his day. It did take him out of his shot for winning this race, but at the same time, these guys recovered, they were ready to do it, and they put him back in a position for a great finish.
Clear. Oh, hang on, door. Hang on, door. Hang on, door. Hang on, door. All right, try and get going as best you can there. Hold the brake, hold the brake, hold the brake. All right, go, 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 go.
Definitely a nice job by Kevin Harvick. A lot of help from the spotter along the way, too.
Hey, Harv had a chance to win the race. That put him back in the field, but Kevin Harvick comes back to finish 6th. Good recovery.
Great recovery by Kevin Harvick, but here's where the real battle was going on. Up front, we had Carl Edwards so hungry for a win at this racetrack. He started on the pole, but Kyle Busch with an effort to continue his history-making run here.
Well, side by side. Now, this was his only shot to try to win the race. He cannot complete the pass. You can see that Carl gets loose getting in the corner.
Carl, that lower lane, like we said before, is just a tough place to pass. And Carl could roll in and roll through the center, but he could not go to the gas. He needed the whole racetrack to come up off of it. And as I said before, the 18 was one of the only cars that I could see who could do that to equal competition. And here we see Kyle Busch coming off turn 4 for the final time.
So Kyle Busch, 5 wins in a row here. The last 5 NASCAR Series races that were run at Bristol have been won by Kyle Busch, and he has a lot of reason to celebrate and take that bow, B-O-W, in front of the crowd.
And Kyle Petty, I think this is the point where the fans are starting to realize he's just antagonizing them now.
Yeah, I think they're getting in on the joke because he's you know what I mean? I mean, you can boo him all you want to, but he's going to keep standing on top of that car and bowing at you and just rubbing your face in it, and that's what he should do. I mean, a great run for him. Jimmy Johnson come back and needed a great run. Matt Kenseth right there, incredible run.
Big bounce back for the Biff, too, as well, and another really good finish for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And to me, this is all about Bobby Labonte. Bobby Labonte was down and out. Schechter and Brad Doherty said, listen, Bobby Labonte is a better driver. Let's show everybody. And there he is again.
I'm going to give a tip of the hat to Brad Keselowski right there. Those guys worked hard to get that car back in the top 20.
In the number 28 spot, Tony Raines, Bill Elliott, and David Rudiman round out your top 30. McMurray's up there as well as P number 21 there. And A.J. Allmendinger had a great starting spot, great start to the season, but not quite the finish he wanted here. Brian Vickers caught up in that first melee, ended up finishing 36. Robbie Gordon and J.J. Yaley in the 40th spot. Then it's Nemechek, Landon Castle, and Michael McDowell. Let's take a look at the points as we see Kurt Busch now has the lead over Carl Edwards, but just by 1 point. Tony Stewart and his teammate Ryan Newman are tied in third, and that is just 12 points out. And look at Paul Menard, again, one of the pleasant surprises of this season. Finishes 5th in the race, and now he's 5th in points.
I mean, he was supposed to be a surprise last year. Everybody should be getting it. Paul Menard is a good driver now.
Yeah, and he's with a team that has made the chase the last 2 or 3 years, and you've got to look at that. He's doing a great job. That team, that whole entire team, the Childress organization, because I doubted when they added that fourth team how it was going to work out. It's working for him. It seems to, at least on that team right now.
So Kurt Busch up top of the points right now as we head out west. And Kenny Wallace's new favorite show is Car Warriors. Wednesday on an all-new episode of Car Warriors, the All-Stars take on a brand new group of challengers in a race to transform 279 Cadillac DeVilles. Don't miss Car Warriors Wednesday night at 9 Eastern, only on Speed.
What happened to the tricked-out El Camino?
He got tricked out. Kyle Busch, the Shrub, comes to talk to us next. Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed, fueled by Sunoco. There are guys who have good runs at racetracks. There are guys who own racetracks and do great there. Then there's what Kyle Busch has done at Bristol over the past couple of trips here. And Kyle, we just want to say that we're not worthy.
Thank you.
We're not worthy to stand in the presence at this time. Absolutely incredible. It must be such a great feeling. You know, guys like Michael Jordan talk about going into a basketball game and just being in the zone, just having the rim be as big as the ocean. Yeah. When you come here, do you get that feeling like you're just in a comfort zone like no other?
Pretty much. I mean, that's a good way of acknowledging it. You know, I think that these guys know, they bring a good race car to the racetrack first and foremost. You got to have that. But, you have to know what you need to get around a racetrack. And I feel like there was a lot of guys today that have gotten a lot closer. You know, Carl was really good. Jimmy was really good. The 56 was really good. There was a lot of cars that were kind of up there and racing with us a little bit there towards the beginning of the race. And so, what a fun race there it was at the end. And racing with Carl, I thought he had me there one time. I got loose in the center of the corner and had to stop, and so I didn't get in the wall. And then he got underneath me really quick and plugged that hole. And I was like, oh, man, hopefully I can keep my momentum going up on the high side here and keep him behind me. And I had some good forward bite there at the exits, and I was working on that all yesterday and all race today, and I still don't think we were great with it, but, it worked for us today.
Kyle, need your advice on something. I'm leading this race, and I'm getting ready to lap people, and they're in the groove that I want. You know, we watched you deal with lap cars today. What should those lap cars do? I mean, you want them out of the way, but they're trying to stay on the lead lap. How do you fight that here at Bristol?
Well, I mean, in the case like Marcus Ambrose, he didn't do anything wrong. He was fighting to save his lap. I will admit that there was a couple times when I tried to get to his outside, and he kind of ran up the racetrack and wouldn't let me get to the outside. And then when I got on his inside there, he kind of squeezed me a little bit on entries and exits, but he'd give me room in the center, which is, I guess that's just kind of diamond in the racetrack. So I wouldn't say he did anything wrong. It's just it's a product of this racetrack. It's a product of racing, what it is. And I tried a couple times at really diving in the corner like he wasn't getting a shot down the straightaway and getting alongside of him. And when I did, I was like, man, if I drive it off into the next corner too far, I'm going to spin out. So it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth, risking my car. And I gave it away and let Jimmy have at it. And Jimmy didn't get by him either. And then the caution came out. So essentially the guy saved himself a lap. And, he did a good job. I'm sure his guys were proud of that.
We get to the end of the race, and it's you and Carl and Jimmy, the three best in the business. The next to last restart, you got a great restart. I mean, you cleared him and was gone. You let Carl sneak up on the inside, and then you start, but he hung right there.
Yeah.
Was that a concern? You're the only guy all day long I saw that could pass really good cars on the inside. Were you worried about Carl at that point in time? Because they showed the in-car camera, and it's like you never looked in the mirror once you got in the lead.
Well, I don't know if I did or didn't. I don't remember. But it's all so far away already. But, Carl, he was getting pretty good on those restarts. I tried to snooker him a little bit, but he didn't bite, and he did a good job. So for me, it was just once we got down the straightaway there and we were kind of side by side, I'm like, okay, you got a good restart. So now it's just going to be a matter of out racing on the guy. Yesterday there was a couple times where I restarted and was able to jump out in front and get ahead of that guy, and I didn't have to worry about him anymore. So those are the easy ones, but they don't always come easy like that.
Kyle, with about, 15 laps to go in the race, I'm watching intently, and you go into turn 3, and you're leading the race, and you go up and almost hit the wall, and that's when you let Carl get underneath you. As a race car driver, what happened? Did your four-wheel slide? Did you push? Were you loose? How did you get up that far?
It was loose. When I ran off into the corner, I got in there a little bit too far and didn't use enough brakes, so I was trying to carry my speed in there, and when I did that, it just kind of started sliding out. And so I kept tapping the brake to try to get the car to settle back down like an anti-lock brake deal and get the car to calm down. And then once I got that, I was able to gas it back up. And then again, I had to race Carl. So, it was an interesting little bit there in the last few laps and what was going on. And I think 34 to go, we had a last restart or something like that. So there were some anxious moments there for sure.
Hey, Kyle, life is always good as a race car driver when you're winning races, but how happy are you this year?
I'm happy. I think I found my happy place, which is really good. And I think a lot of that goes with Samantha and being married to her, and through the off season doing the stuff that we've been doing together, and working a lot with Coach and just talking to some peoples and really trying to work together and just have fun, man. Just enjoy it and just live it.
All right, well, Kyle, we want you to get used to doing this, signing our Sunoco flag here after the end of this race. This one is really history-making for Kyle Busch. Not only did he make the historic sweep last time we raced here, but he has now won the last 5 NASCAR races here. And each week here on NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco, one lucky fan will receive the Sunoco checkered flag, autographed by the winner of the race. Enter online at speed.com, keyword Sunoco, to win the flag that Kyle Busch has just signed. Another victory swig there for Kyle Busch. Congratulations, man.
Appreciate it. You got it.
Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. There you see the winning car and the winningest car over the last couple of trips here to Bristol. The number 18 driven by Kyle Busch. And, of course, you have to have the help of a pit crew to accomplish a feat like sweeping a weekend here at Bristol, and Kyle Busch definitely gave credit to his crew. We got crew chief Dave Rogers with us now, and Dave, final pit stop here at Bristol with everybody breathing down Kyle's neck. We're going to give your crew and you the Hamburger Helper Most Helpful Pit Crew Award for this last pit stop. Tell us what happened on this stop. It looked absolutely flawless.
Yeah, our guys have been performing really well for some time now, and once we you're showing all our tricks here.
They're good tricks, though.
Yeah, they're good tricks. These guys have been practicing some things. We knew that this new fuel situation was going to change the ball game a little bit, and after we fell out of the chase and realized we couldn't win the championship last year, we started working on some new stuff, and that's what the guys just demonstrated there. They pulled a trick out of their bag early in the season and took the lead on pit road, and that's what it took to win the race.
We just had Kyle up here, and Johnny asked him a question about his attitude, and he said he's kind of found his happy place. I thought I read or heard somewhere where you said you really don't care, you just want to keep the old Kyle Busch. Is he still the old Kyle Busch when it comes to sitting in the race car and you guys talking? Because he does appear different talking to the media and how he handles things. Is he still the same guy that you deal with on a daily basis?
He's absolutely the same guy. He is exactly who I want him to be right now. He is at peace with himself. He's at peace with a lot of things in his life. But you saw him splitting lap cars 3 wide. It's still Rowdy Busch. He's still out there putting on a good show for the fans. He's still driving the wheels off it. And he's still demanding on us. He pushes us and wants us to perform and do well on pit stops and give him good race cars. So he's still Rowdy Busch, but he's at peace. He's a peaceful Rowdy Busch.
Peaceful and rowdy.
Dave, this is a pretty big deal to all the fans. We go back to Texas last year, and he said to you on the radio, I want to quit. This is ridiculous. And you said, I'll never forget the words you said, you cannot quit on us. We need you in here. I think you've had a little bit of something to do. I mean, you became his boss that day. You did not let him tell you what to do. You told him what to do.
Yeah, it's a teamwork. Hopefully we're establishing a good friendship. Yeah, here's another highlight you guys are showing.
This might be a low light. This is Texas.
This is when you were mad.
Yeah, this is where I was mad. Every great team needs that. When in this business, there's 2 leaders, the driver and the crew chief. And there's times that the driver steps up and says, hey, I need this. And there's times the crew chief has to step up and say, no, I need this. And I think Kyle and I have done a good job of that. There's times that he doesn't think I'm giving 100% or I've messed up, and he lets me know. And this is one of those times where I wasn't thinking he was giving 100%, and I was able to let him know. That's just a good quality relationship. When you can have that honesty with some guy and tell him straight up what you think, not beat around the bush, I think that's a quality relationship, and that's what I really appreciate about working with Kyle Busch.
It's incredibly rare. Most people get their feelings hurt and want to punch out.
All right, that's enough of the bad stuff. Let's talk about the good stuff for Kyle Busch. We keep using our Michael Jordan analogy today, so let's continue with it. The guys that were around him when he was winning all those championships and playing at the level he was were just in awe of his ability. When you get to see a driver like Kyle accomplish a feat like winning 5 NASCAR races in a row at the same racetrack and doing what he's doing, you must be a little bit in awe of his driving ability.
Oh, certainly. You're in awe of his driving ability. And you know what? I have a unique perspective. I'm probably the only crew chief right now that knows what it's like to have that much pressure having Kyle Busch drive your race car at Bristol. Because if you don't win here, you really mess something up bad. But yeah, we were out to lunch yesterday. We just missed it. We were way too tight, and we put a new tire on. We were tighter yet. So we worked all night trying to figure out what we had to do. The road crew came in, the mechanics, and they rebuilt that race car today and put something together. We'll debrief after, see if he thinks it was better. It looked like it drove better. But there's a lot of pressure working for Kyle because he is so good.
Yeah, and this is something we haven't talked about here. You guys did all your practicing and your qualifying on one set of tires or one set of right sides. Then you come in and you get 45 minutes. How much of that was your relationship with the driver? How much of that was engineering? And how much of that was, I'm shooting in the dark on this one, I don't know where it's at? I mean, because I'm sure there was a little black magic and some of that stuff in it too.
Yeah, I'd say 40-40-20.
Yeah.
You know, what we did was we used practice to do a lot of A-B stuff. Hey, let's try this one change. Tell me where it affects the corner. You know, let's do this one change. Tell me where it affects the corner. We knew it would be slightly different. I mean, as racers, you kind of know that. You know what track bar up's going to do. You know what wedge out's going to do. But we tried to see what it was going to do on that tire, and we hoped that the new tire would behave similarly. So we made a lot of those changes, put together a notebook in the first 2/3 of practice. The last third of practice, we bolted on new tires, saw how far off we were, and then we went back to the notebook after practice. And definitely there's some engineers up at night looking at tire data, studying simulations. And then you talk to Greg Zipadelli, you know, my mentor, and say, okay, what do you think this track's going to do? What do you think this tire's going to do? And him and I put our heads together a little bit and did that 20% of guesswork this morning.
Hey, Dave, congratulations, man. Keep up the good work. Great job today. This is a tough race and a tough track, and you guys brought home the big trophy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, congratulations on a great teamwork win there for that number 18 team. Now, AA Adam Alexander is sort of like our crew chief and driver all rolled into one when it comes to the Speed Center. Take it away, AA.
Moisturizes like a lotion.
Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. There you see, after 500 laps, it's the number 18 that is on top of the scoring pylon. That's a very familiar sight here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. But, you know, there was a while when this place gave fits to the 5-time champion, Jimmy Johnson. But it seems like after a victory here in this race last year and a great run today, he's starting to figure it out. Let's go to Bob Dillner.
Jimmy Johnson won this race 1 year ago. Now, are you smiling after this one?
Yeah, I'm smiling. Disappointed, though. I felt like we really had a shot at winning the race. I came home third, so we can't complain too much. We needed the points. Very good performance for the team all weekend long. Qualifying race today. So we're definitely getting things situated and going in the right direction. So I'm very proud.
You know, I thought maybe the longer that run went, it seemed like your car was better on maybe the longer run. I thought you might have a shot at getting by Carl and challenging Kyle for the win, but that didn't pan out. How come?
You know, I tried to get up top and make some ground around there, and I just about threw it away a couple times down in turns 1 and 2, and I just had to drive above the ability of the car to catch him at all. And at that point, I just wanted to save my tires and hope for a green-white checkered and have a shot at something there, but it didn't come around. The track position was actually really important here. Whoever had the lead had just a little bit more and was gone, and you can't give Kyle control of the race at Bristol from the last pit stop on. He knows which lane to pick. He knows how to restart, knows how to run this place awfully well.
It was fun watching the three of you.
It was fun being out there. I just hate that we were third. I wish that this Lowe's and Paulo would have been up front.
Yeah, for a group of guys that's used to winning races, sometimes a third-place finish isn't that good. But here at Bristol, you have to say it's good, and you also have to say there once again at this point in the year is no kink in the armor of Superman right now. He's still up there.
No, yeah, I thought there was a kink last week because I thought they run like junk at Las Vegas, to be totally honest with you. But here's what happens. Jimmy comes here and wins a race, and he's run here the next two races. He's run really well here. And Kenny can speak to this. I think a lot of times as a driver, you find that feel. You find what you want that car to feel like at that racetrack. It doesn't make any difference whether it's Daytona or Bristol or Charlotte. You just find the feel. And I think Jimmy, by winning that race and winning it the way he did, he found the feel he looks for in a car, and he can transfer that to Chad. Now, when you start doing that at every racetrack, Jimmy already has a feel at 90% of these racetracks. Then it's tough, and they're throwing down the gauntlet a little bit early this year to say we can run at these places we used to run bad at.
And if you do it right, you end up with a 6th championship in a row, which is definitely not out of any stretch of the imagination right now for the number 48 team. Well, from one short track to another, from Bristol, we're going to head out to California, but do not forget that the Camping World Truck Series on April 2nd will take on the tight turns of Martinsville. Paint will be traded, metal will be crushed, and tempers will boil over. Don't Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series from Martinsville, April 2nd at 1:30 Eastern, live on Speed. When we come back, we'll hear from one of the more pleasant surprises this year, driver of the number 27. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bristol Motor Speedway at NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. You know, I believe it was the veteran rocker Sheryl Crow who once said, a change will do you good. Well, for Paul Menard, a change certainly did do him very good. A change to Richard Childress Racing has made him a top 10 driver right now in points and also a top 5 driver here at Bristol after this 500-lap race. Let's go to Bob Dillner.
A hard-fought battle for Paul Menard, but he finally comes out with your first top 5. And we talked earlier, you and me, and even Slugger and I talked about closing the deal. You were able to close the deal today, Paul.
Yeah, we just had a strong car all day long. You know, we led early. You know, had a bad pit stop. The guys bounced back from there on. Had great pit stops the rest of the day, and track position is just huge. Yeah, top 5 at Bristol's pretty cool.
Top 5 in points too. I mean, just think about the start of this season. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's still early, obviously, but we've run fast. We've run strong. Nice job, dude. We've run strong. Slugger's built a hell of a race team, and having a lot of fun with these guys.
I'll tell you what, Paul Menard turning heads this year.
One thing that is really good for Paul Menard is next week, already in California, or 2 weeks from now, whenever next week, is the last race that we line up, you know, for this year's points. So what I'm saying is we're getting into the year now, and Paul Menard is 5th in points. It's proven that he's the real deal. One thing I like is that Richard Childress said, okay, we'll take you on, Paul. We'll take the Menard sponsorship. And they're showing that the kid can do it. He is fast. Slugger Labby and him are good together. Slugger was with him last year. Last year they were consistent, but this year it looks to me like they're fast. I really like what I'm seeing, and like I say, we're going to the 5th race of the year next week. So I think he's here to stay.
And clearly a very underrated driver because he did everything right and he did it quietly. So if you're not winning and you're not wrecking, you fall in the middle and people don't talk about you enough. We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will talk about California. We're heading out west to a whole different beast.
NASCAR Victory Lane is fueled by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Put the fuel of NASCAR in your car. Brought to you in high definition by Funai. Funai, fun and innovative. Experience more at FunaiAmerica.com. And by Allstate. Dollar for dollar, nobody protects riders like Allstate. Are you in good hands?
If you want to stay in touch with the world of NASCAR during the week, you better tune into NASCAR Race Hub. Monday, they will have a Bristol recap. Larry Mack in the studio, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin on Tuesday, Steve Letarte interview on Wednesday, and then Jeff Hammond will be along in the studio. Thursday has Donnie Allison, and if you are wondering where they are now, Michael Fatback McSwain will check in, and we will see where that former crew chief is now. So now it is up to us to turn our eyes to Fontana, California, to the Auto Club Speedway. So we go from a small track on the East Coast to a West Coast big track. But first, let's take a look at the point swing we saw. And actually, it's a big enough swing. You can call it a swing here because Kyle Busch moved 8 points. Jimmy Johnson up 5 points. And I guess you could say the guy who suffered the worst out of this trip to Bristol was Denny Hamlin in points positions, 9 down.
I always like positivity. So Greg Biffle goes from 31st to 23rd. Kyle Petty drags himself out of the cellar.
But you see how quick these things, even 4 races into the season, how quick they can change. You've got guys moving up 6 and 8, and you've got moving down from 7 to 9 positions. So there's these big swings, and just as Kenny said this morning on race day, there's still a number of ties in the top 10 or 12.
And we are talking about two completely different beasts when we talk about Bristol, a small track where you can't really control your own destiny to a certain extent, to a big track at Auto Club Speedway where the 2 RCR cars here were doing battle at this point. But, Kyle, they were also at the same time battling Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, they were chasing Jimmy Johnson at this time. You see the 29 car. He had run Jimmy down late in the race. The car got a little bit loose as he swept across the rear end of the 48 car and got into the wall and basically ended his day. He ended up finishing second. But I think these two cars. If you look at the 31, you look at the 33, you look at the 29, they asserted themselves in the second or third race of the season last year that they were going to be a factor, and they were a factor. Jimmy ends up winning the race, and obviously he was the factor last year, but I think Childress made a big comeback early on last year.
You know, like every week, these races are determined at the race shop. What kind of car you got, you know, can Toyota gather up all their information and put Kyle Busch and Victory Lane like they did here? But when you go to California, it's a Speedy Gonzales racetrack. It means you got to have everything perfect. 200-mile-an-hour speeds. Look for the very best car. The driver can only do so much at that big, fast racetrack.
Arriba. And Jimmy Johnson is from Southern California. He's a California guy, and he's made that place somewhat of his own personal playground in front of the hometown fans there. 5 wins and 16 starts. Very impressive numbers. 12 top 10 finishes, and an average finish of a 5th place.
Okay, so can we say that Jimmy Johnson is the Kyle Busch of that speedway?
Oh, yeah, say it again.
Pretty much right now it looks like it. Going in there, he's got to be one of the favorites no matter what's going on there. But also, as we mentioned before, the Richard Childress racing cars need to bounce back right now, and perhaps what happened there last year would be a very good sign of the times for them. So we're going to pack everything up here from Bristol after the Jeff Byrd 500, where Kyle Busch won once again here at Bristol, his own personal playground. Want to thank everybody for coming along for the ride. Be sure to tune into the Race Hub all week long, and we'll see you out west.